In the face of grave oppression and grave injustice, African Americans have built, strengthened, inspired, uplifted, protected, defended, and sustained our nation from its very earliest days. Last year, I was privileged to sign the law establishing a commission to commemorate the arrival of the first Africans to the English colonies and the 400 years of African American history that have followed. That was an incredible day. That was an incredible event. Today, we are grateful to be joined by that commission's chairman, Dr. Joseph Green. Thank you, Dr. Green, please.
That was the President of the United States at the 400th anniversary of the Virginia General Assembly this week on Freedom and Prosperity Radio, presented to you by the Virginia Institute for Public Policy. You find out more about us online at tertiumquids.org. More than a think tank, a do tank. On that subject, we caught up with Delegate Nick Freitas. It's the 800-pound donkey in the room. Nick Freitas is on with us, delegate from the 30th District, back on the ballot for the GOP, and everyone in Culpeper breathes a sigh of relief. But the Black Caucus of the General Assembly is boycotting this. There's a story going around that Ralph Northam is boycotting this. He's the one who invited the president. Talk about this controversy. Is this just publicity stunnery going on and trying to score some political points going into a General Assembly election?
I think everyone's saying the same thing, right? This is really disappointing. No, I mean it. This is incredibly disappointing because this is supposed to be bigger than all of us. We are all, myself as a delegate, the governor, the president, we are all temporary occupants of our positions. But what we're celebrating to here is supposed to transcend that. And unfortunately, we have a lot of people who I disagree with a lot, but I generally respect, that decided that no, nothing was going to transcend petty politics at this point. Nothing was going to be bigger than any one of us or our individual political agendas. And that's incredibly disappointing because I want my colleagues to be here, even the ones I vehemently disagree with, because what we're celebrating today is a representation of that.
And when Patrick Henry rose to speak his famous words at St. John's Church in Richmond, "Give me liberty or give me death," he spoke in defense of a tradition that began more than 150 years before at Jamestown, right here. It was a heritage those patriots would fight a long war of independence to defend. And it is a heritage that countless Americans have fought and died for, to secure in all of those centuries since. In our time, we must vigorously defend those cherished democratic traditions that have made our beloved republic the envy of the entire world. And it still is, as much as ever before, and maybe more. Our hard-won culture of self-government must be nourished, protected, and constantly preserved. That is why we must speak out strongly against anyone who would take power away from citizens, individuals, and state governments such as yours. In America, the people will forever rule, the people will forever reign, and the people will forever be sovereign. From the first legislative assembly down to today, America has been the story of citizens who take ownership of their future and their control of their destiny. That is what self-rule is all about. Every day, Americans coming together to take action, to build, to create, to seize opportunities, to pursue the common good, and to never stop striving for greatness.
I said this earlier, is it maybe we can now mark how long it takes a society to forget about what socialism nearly did to this colony 400 years ago, and they threw it off and tried free market representative government after nearly starving to death in the first 12 years they were here.
Well, no, I think unfortunately socialism is a bad philosophy which refuses to die, and every time we think we've killed it, it resurrects. But no, it's a great point. One of the things that we're celebrating here today is not just the concept of representative government, but it is about starting that experiment of greater individual liberty, private property rights, and the benefits that all of those things together does for a society.
We were talking about, I had, and this is really more of a confessional, we had never been here before. So we're walking around the original site. We're visiting the archaeologists that are digging in the church and found the original governor, no white sheets, at least as far as we can tell. They're still doing forensics. But the size of this area, the Jamestown settlement, it's tiny.
Yeah.
It's like 3 square blocks.
Yeah.
So when this first General Assembly met, there wasn't a matter of like, oh, I hate you and I never have to see you again. These were people who were going to see each other every day after this session was in session.
No, I think it does make a difference. Proximity can either breed good behavior or bad behavior. But no, I think you're right. When people come to Jamestown, that is one of the things that shocks them is how small the settlement really is. When we were driving down here from Culpeper, I was just thinking, gosh, we're going to a place where it really all started in the Western Hemisphere and in North America, where the experiment of self-government on this continent began. And as you're driving over the bridges and the well-paved roads, you start to realize that none of this was here, none of this convenience was here. It really was just absolutely austere, and there was 1,000 different ways this could have gone horribly, horribly wrong. And so it really is amazing to see what the United States has become, and the fact that Virginia has this special place in U.S. history that is really unrivaled by any other place. And it really is an honor to be here.
Well, if the Royals had realized what was going to be born here, I think they would have stopped this in its tracks 400 years ago, because really the seed of everything that led to 1776 and 1789 were planted right here, because these were folks who came from a very ordered society, but now why are you a lord? Just because you were a lord when we left England? No, I just, and that idea of I have a say really was born here, probably in the weeks leading up to July 30th, but certainly in the reason for it, don't you think, Nick?
Oh, no, absolutely. I think that regardless of what sort of class structure you might have had in England, like you said, once you get over here, England's a long way away, right. And you can't just rely on that structure to save you if you've really made the people mad. And so there wasn't, I think, a recognition and understanding. And again, it wasn't perfect. Obviously, we had slavery going on. We had other things that it would take centuries for us to rectify and to fight through. But again, it was that concept and appreciating the context of the times of how unique it was for just regular people, planters, to be a part of that decision-making process for the good of the colony. That was significant. And again, we're the beneficiaries of the things that happened here at Jamestown.
We also visited with 56th District Delegate John McGuire. Well, John is here as part of the General Assembly. What does it mean to you, and did you ever consider that you were going to be part of something that has been going on for 400 years in representing the people of a community?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for having me on your show this morning, Joe. I got to tell you, it's a huge honor to be here, and no, I never thought I'd be part of it, but I was a Navy SEAL, and my oldest son went in the Navy, and my youngest son went to college, and I was so proud of his service. I said, how can I go in the Navy? How can I serve again? And someone said, you should run for the House of Delegates. And I said, what's the deal? And they said 60 days a year. And I fell for it. But I got to tell you, it's been an honor, and I don't know if this is the right thing to say, but it's been fun. It's fun when you help people solve problems.
I worry that our elected representatives are devolving into clip machines that are just finding the villain of the week to point at and say, vote for me, and we see it in the law enforcement community. We have politicians that say, oh, I don't know why these police officers are targeting the black community, when they're the ones writing the laws that the law enforcement officers are enforcing. And it's just the biggest con that I've ever seen. How do we ride this out? I mean, you're in the middle of it. This is your first term. I mean, did you ever stop and say, can we just be honest with each other for a minute?
Well, I think there's a war on common sense. And I got to tell you, when I knock on doors, I knock on Democrat doors, Independent, Republican. To me, we're Americans. And I knock on the doors, and everybody laughs, and just like you. And then they start to tell me what doesn't make sense. And, I can't control other people, but I can control myself. And my pledge is to do no harm. And we have an incredible country. I've been in some of the most dangerous places in the world, and I'm here to...
Baltimore?
Yes.
I have friends from Dundalk.
Unfortunately, you're right. And so, and of course, I don't want to get too political, but you look at some of the Democrat-held cities with some of the highest crime rates. Yeah. We have to be careful who we elect. I guess you've heard elections have consequences, right?
I've heard that somewhere.
Yeah,
before,
a couple of
John.
times.
John McGuire is on with us, 56th District, and getting ready for the. I saw a picture of your campaign vehicle and all the Trump flags on it, and everyone seems to think he's this polarizing figure. And I point out the fact that 20% of the votes he received in 2016 came from people that had voted for Barack Obama at least once,
right,
if not twice. So I just maybe we're finally gotten to the point where people have started to hear politicians just buzzing in the background instead of actually listening to them.
Right. I think Trump loves our country, and I have a lot of family members and friends that don't like him for whatever reason. But you should at least respect the office. And if you love our country more than you hate Trump, you have to admit that our economy is incredible. Unemployment for minorities and women and everything else is at all-time lows. Things are getting better.
Well, he really, one of the things that he throws off, and this Baltimore thing reminds us, and I'm going to be on CBS This Morning show next week on a roundtable in Charlottesville, because Charlottesville decided we were going to be the center square of this kind of racial animus, even though we're not really.
Right.
But we've become sort of the template of it. The idea that nobody is arguing about what Trump said about Baltimore per se, in terms of, oh no, Baltimore is a wonderful city. Baltimore has jobs. We have too many jobs. Not enough. Nobody's arguing that. They're just saying, oh, that was mean of him to say about Elijah Cummings. You shouldn't say that about Elijah Cummings. But nobody's dealing with the reality. And I think that's where the voter is saying, hold it. I'm right. I just saw a rat run across my street.
Right. And I heard some media story. They said actually Orkin said that they were one of the top 10 places for rat infestation or something. So I mean, I don't want to pile on to Baltimore,
Well,
but
no, but the point is, you don't fix a problem without addressing it.
you can't deal with you have to deal with reality. You can't just make sound bites in fantasy land. The reality is the reality. But even they're still Americans, and we have to come together as a people, and we can solve these problems.
Well, and I think that's the problem. Isn't black and white; it's green, and that's one of the things we count on. You've had some great bills. How is the re-election campaign going? Before we have to let you go to, I don't know if that horn says get the delegates in here for our special session or not.
No, I think we're good. I'm telling you, politics has been fun so far, because when somebody tells you can't do something, imagine they said you can't win an election and you have one of the largest wins in Virginia. You'd be pretty happy. And then they say, okay, you won, but you'll never get anything done. And then your first week, several newspapers say freshman Delegate McGuire just saved Virginia $100 million. 8-year problem, we solved it in 2 days by bringing people like you and others and listening. But anyway, I'm going to act like I'm 20 points behind on every election. I'm not taking a chance. We have a lot at stake. If we lose the majority in November, you won't like the Virginia you live in. No, we stopped $1 billion in tax increases, our Second Amendment. I mean, everything is at stake in November. And so I would tell every Republican, if you care about Virginia, tell 10 people to tell 10 people, get off your butt, donate, send prayers, number one, donate, knock doors, and we need your vote.
Remember, the Democrats are the ones that said we don't want your thoughts and prayers. What does it say about a party that says we're against thinking and praying? But John, last one for you. Voter turnout. We're going to see, and if it's like 4 years ago, just like David Toscano's district, new person there, but he was elected 4 years ago with 10,000 votes in an 80,000 person district. I think the Republican majority is protected if we can get more voter turnout.
You're right. That's why we have to. I got to tell your audience is if everyone went home on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, text me, whatever they do, and get 10 people to tell 10 people. Get your buddy. During Dave Bratt's race, I had friends say, I went fishing that day. I'm like, really? Someone lost a race a couple of years ago by one vote. So every vote counts, and we have. I'm thinking I'm going to have grandchildren one day, and what type of Commonwealth do we want them to inherit? So I'm here to serve again, and I'm going to do my part.
I also want to recognize everyone at American Evolution and the Jamestown Settlement, the Jamestown Yorktown Foundation, the Jamestown Rediscovery Project, and Preservation Virginia. Thank you very much. What a great job you do. Thank you.
That was the president addressing the 400th anniversary special session of the Virginia General Assembly and referencing Kathy Spangler, executive director of the American Evolution 2019. Now, it's a shame that it's gotten kind of marred by politics a little bit.
No, it is the tradition of Virginia's commemoration to have the highest ranking officials possible to attend these very, very important moments in time. And so in 1907, Theodore Roosevelt, 2007, George Bush, certainly the Queen, Queen Elizabeth, Her Majesty came in 1957 and 2007. And so we sent far and wide always with our political leaders' support to leaders from across the globe, from Theresa May to previous presidents and such. So it's in the tradition of the Jamestown commemorations to have this type of national and international recognition to the importance of this place.
I was watching a fascinating documentary on the archaeology that's going on here, and that or the archaeologists have been able to unearth the original governor, his burial site.
They believe in the chancel of the recreated church, which has been upgraded with interpretive values for the commemorative year as one of our legacy projects. And so it's not just that these places are historic, but the interpretation and the discovery around these places continues. And so if you've been here 10 years ago or even 3 years ago, here at Jamestown Settlement, unveiled tomorrow a brand new refresh gallery on all of the elements of 1619, a new Bacon's Rebellion theater, lots of interesting things. We actually have the first minutes of that very first representative assembly, the Pori Papers. Pori was the speaker. Back here for the first time in 400 years. They'll only be here through mid-September. And so there's some extraordinary things. The Tenacity exhibit is a legacy project of the commemoration here at Jamestown Settlement, and that explores the three cultures of women and the many cultures to follow and the impact women have had on American life, in all aspects.
We also caught up with one of the archaeologists who have unearthed the original General Assembly site. In the building where it all started, and with Michael Lavin, one of the archaeologists involved with this amazing first excavation, then restoration, and you're the directions, if I'm reading your name tag correctly?
Yes, Director of Collections and Conservation for Jamestown Discovery Archaeological Project.
So that's separate and a lot of other things. So you have to work hand in glove with some of the folks, the tourist stuff and everything else.
So we are a research program. We were led for many years by Dr. William Kelso. He was Director of Archaeology. Now he's Director Emeritus. And Dave Givens is now Director of Archaeology. I'm Director of Collections and Conservation.
The process, and I've been watching some of this, you have a great stop action, so when people come down here to Jamestown, come out to the island, look at the stop action of all through the archaeological dig, and then building out what you've built here and now so that we can still enjoy this while feeling the archaeological side of it. It must have been painstaking.
Well, the focus always for us is the historical archaeology that we're doing and then what we are learning from that historical archaeology. So we're standing here in the Memorial Church, which was erected over 100 years ago, but they've always known that the foundations or portions of the foundations of the 17 church were just inside of the brick foundations. But we started an archaeological project in this building in 2016 and have been excavating in here since then. And we were able to find the east wall of that church and also the west wall, which currently sits in the tower. So now we can point to the exact spot where democracy began in English North America.
Now, I was watching a PBS special. You believe you've actually found Governor Yardley's burial place.
Yes, we found, the stone for Yardley was found in 1901.
And that's here on display
Correct.
right now.
Yeah, we did a major restoration of the stone, and we've placed it under glass, and the visitor can actually go to the exact spot where we think it was originally placed. It was discovered in its newer location at the southern door of the brick church, which is completed sometime after November 1647. So that burial that we dug is the only burial that is related to the 1617 church in the chancel of that 1617 church. And the remains are pointing, the forensics are pointing to somebody that's been in country for a little bit of time, but not born here. So that immediately rules out Lord Delaware, because he dies at sea and he's not back to Jamestown for a few years. So there is actually squash remains in his
Wow,
gut.
you can find that. That's amazing.
We send it to archaeobotanists in order to look through the remains. Then also some of the forensics done by both the FBI and the Smithsonian are pointing to somebody who fits the profile of a knight, Sir George Yardley.
Well, it's an amazing. If you haven't been here to visit, come here and walk around in the first place that democracy began. Thank you very much, Michael, for giving us a little bit of a look into it and kind of opening it up to everybody tomorrow.
Sure, and stay tuned. We do have a DNA signature for Sir, who we believe to be Sir George Yardley.
And you have somebody to match it with?
We need to find somebody to match it with. Now, finding a Y DNA line or a mitochondrial DNA line to a surviving person is difficult. So we're still working on that right now.
And it's a tremendous honor to stand on these historic grounds as the first president to address a joint session of the oldest lawmaking body in all of the Western Hemisphere, the Virginia General Assembly. Congratulations. On this day, 400 years ago, here on the shores of the James River, the first representative legislative assembly in the New World convened. By the devotion of generations of patriots, it has flourished throughout the ages. And now that proud tradition continues with all of you. To every Virginian and every legislator with us today, congratulations on 4 incredible centuries of history, heritage, and commitment to the righteous cause of American self-government. This is truly a momentous occasion.